Yes. So, how's your Goldie lives? How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
Not bad. Have you?
That's a good Aussie refrain, isn't
It's a very guarded response.
it?
Yes, that's in Ireland.
I'm doing
There was
Tim Catatori's Science of Somatics at the moment, and it's quite interesting. I'm only doing the self-study program, not the live one.
right.
It's very interesting. Yeah,
It's good, is it? Yes.
yeah, I'm
Yes. If I
enjoying
had
it.
more hours in the week, I'd do it, but I just don't at the moment.
Mm.
Yeah. Yes, and it's quite a lot
What was
of.
that? Sorry, Chris?
Tim Catatori and a couple of other people have got a
Yeah.
Science of Somatics program, and I'm doing the course as a self-study program. So I did the one on pain, which was it was a bit more demanding because it was live and um, there was more people, more people involved and more work involved. I enjoyed that as well.
Yes,
But
that's based with Marie Hodges.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Yes,
It was
that's
excellent.
fascinating what she's telling us.
Yeah, but yeah,
That's good. Yes, and I guess what she's saying is more advanced because you remember that were you in the original OTT group during COVID? Did
no,
either of you? You didn't do that, did you? No, because did you, Sandra? Were you in the Monday morning
I did a
Australia
little
group?
bit.
Did a little bit. Yes, I thought so.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
and then yes, Marie was in one of the groups, and she was at that point still doing her MA, and I said, well, why don't you present? Because she was really sort of beginning to pull it together. I said, well, why don't you give us a presentation? And she gave us a free presentation, which was
yeah,
lovely.
yeah.
And so I've been awake to it ever since then.
Yeah.
Um, what would you like to work with today? Anything you want to? Sandra, I'm wondering how your feet are, because you were talking about you've
Um,
been given all
well,
that advice by the
yes.
physio last
I'm
time.
I'm yes, so I've parked all that advice. Um, and I'm continuing to work on the whole of myself really so that I get some improvement and change in legs. So I've been working on getting a lot more tone, I guess, in the legs. And that's kind of flowed into, I've been working a lot on lower ribs back, back of the armpits back, and coming up on toes.
Excellent, beautiful.
Mm.
Yes, yes.
That's what I've been
And
playing with.
I've been working with transferring of energy right through the legs, so we can do some of that today, if you would like, because that again just helps the legs wake up. So that's something I thought we could look at, if you would like.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Mm.
Chris, is there anything you wanted to ask
Well,
me?
I think I can sort of tie in with that, but with a probably a question around sciatica and or just yeah, just information about sciatica would be good.
Yes, I mean, my understanding of sciatica is it's the sciatic nerve goes between the piriformis and the ischial, ischial, ischiopubagale, the very back, uh, ischiopubococcygeal. I'm just trying to ischiococcygeal. Sorry, that finally get the name. Do you know what I mean? The very back part of the pelvic floor. I presume you
Yeah,
know the anatomy of that
roughly, yes.
roughly. So I think there's my understanding is that when you lean back a lot, as I'm sure you don't nowadays, and the posterior iliac spines come together, And I think that sort of jams that whole region up. Everything gets sort of narrow and tight around the back, and that's what traps the nerve. So the more we can widen those back iliac spines, I think, and free off, widen that whole back of the sacrum area. I mean, I have no clinical evidence on this, but it's got to help free off the connection for the nerve and where the things go through, and breathe, and then breathing into the pelvic floor. But the one that makes the instant hit for people is hip lifts. Very often can stop sciatica in one go. Have we talked about this before, or is this a new one for you, Chris?
I don't think we've talked about it before. No.
So it was a pupil I had in a group in Ireland who had bad sciatica, and I taught the group hip lifts, pelvic lifts, and he came back the next week and he said, my sciatica is cured. I'm like, wow, okay. Because up till then, I'd always got people, breathing into the pelvic floor and lengthening their legs away, and it hadn't really touched it. And suddenly that one, so I taught it to my husband, who gets sciatic pains every so often. And if we're out on a walk, it's like, right, find a rock the right height, do some pelvic lifts, and it just switches it off. And he might need to do that several times on the walk, but it means he can do it. And then it goes away again for a while, and then it comes back, and he puts a book on the floor and does a few pelvic lifts every time it comes back. So it certainly works for him, and it's worked for a few other pupils. It's
interesting you say that it keeps coming back, because in my case it does keep coming back, and there's a distinct default that I go to, which it's like I'm hiking up the gluteal and standing strongly on the left leg.
Right.
And
is it the left leg that you get it in?
Yeah. And then so I'm managing it, because I can sort of detect that and stop it. Like inhibit and direct, and the left leg releases. The left leg releases, and the balance between the legs is more equalised, if you like.
Yes. No, that's lovely that you can work with that finer pattern.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when a nerve starts to get irritated, they don't go away. They just, it just becomes a sore spot, as it were. That's my experience. I mean, I had a bash from a hockey stick on my elbow, and I had funny bone pain.
Trapping the sciatic nerve somewhere.
That actually paralysed that arm for a while. And everyone trivialised it. It's like, no, this is not a trivial issue. This has completely fucked my arm. I could hardly write for 3 months. We've lost.
Sorry,
back again?
I must have gone off stream.
And it's been a sensitive point ever since. That gradually cleared, but it took months. And but I've only got to, if I'm resting my arms in semi-supine after a while, or I've only got to touch a door, and it's back. It's like it's never forgotten. So I don't know whether it's just that nerves have memories, or whether there's, it's like the skin is thinner on them or something. I have no idea. So managing it, and if you can stop it, that's great. And maybe they can go away. I don't know. I mean, certainly Julian has phases where he hasn't got it for months at a time, and then suddenly it'll hit again. But he's 91, so things come and go all the time for him. And what I always like to see is that there are periods where it's gone. He is now losing strength and losing, but I mean, we've just been to the west of Scotland. He drove all the way there, he drove all the way back, he did all the driving. He walked. We had to walk fairly well on the flat, and he's pretty tired now we've got home, but he doesn't give in, and he works on himself. So if he gets pains. You know, he gets arthritis in his hands and he works on it and goes away again. And I think that's what, to me, that's more important as we get older than being able to, you know, get rid of something. We need to know if it comes back, how to get rid of it. Would you agree with that, or is that too pessimistic?
No, I don't think so. I think it's sort of part of the aging process, and it's probably a pretty healthy attitude.
I mean, things get vulnerable. You know, when I tune into his nerves, or if you know, and I tune in sometimes to his organs, and I just have the sense that they're tired. And when things are tired, they can snarl at you, just like he did just now when I brought the dog in wet and I got snarled at. It's like, oh yeah. And his nerves and his organs are the same. They don't sort of, they don't go to the low state. They just you know, it's things overact before they die, and it's I'd rather they were overacting than dead. That's, you know, how I'm seeing it anyway. So
Yeah, no, I think it's great to have some you know, tools in place for when that happens, that you've got, you know, a repertoire to approach each of those obstacles.
That's the one, isn't it? Yes. So, yeah, I mean, the hip lift is a quick fix, and then what Chris is saying about actually listening to the balance of where the standing is and shunting it across, which is what I do when the bursa that is not going away in my right hip, but it's from years of overstanding on the right leg. I now know why it's there, and if I can shift back over to the left leg, it's fine. But you know, hey, it's been coping with that for 65 years, and it's just, you know, I think again it's always going to be a delicate point. And there are, you know, again, long periods of time now where it doesn't hurt, but if I get back on that right hip, it reminds me. Which is not a bad thing, because I've been trying to address that for years, but not actually putting enough attention into it. Now I am, funnily enough, because it hurts. Pain is a teacher. Yeah, it's like, I wish I'd done that work 30 years ago when I first discovered that pattern. But there we go.
Yeah.
So let's play with weight transfer, which again will be interesting for you, Chris, I think, based on what you've just said. So this is based on the Delsart. One of their games was, it's the energy. Oh, I'll put some light on. It's a bit dark. So if I send some energy across from that hip to that hip, and then I send some energy across from that hip to that hip, and it's very easy to overshoot and then end up there, and overshoot that way and end up there, which obviously we don't want, because then we're on the outside of the hip, the outside of the leg, and then things start to strain. So when I shift energy across, if I just shift it to the middle and then pour the energy down that leg, and then bring it up and send it across and pour it down that leg. And my image is of a house with guttering along the edge of the roof, and then two downspouts, you know, drain pipes we call them in UK. I don't know what you call them in Ireland, but the pipes that take the water down and put them in the ground. So the water flows along the gutter, and then it pours down and into the ground, and you can feel your big toe. You can feel those inside rather than the outside. You can feel the inside muscles of the legs, but we're not focusing the muscles so much as the embodiment, the sort of liquid light, with more emphasis this time on liquid than light, and taking it right down so that water pours right through into the ground. And I've been working with this particularly with two pupils who've got very compromised legs after operations. One had a back operation, the other one had a brain tumour removed, and both of them afterwards really lost connection with their legs, and this is one of the ways I'm helping them get it back again, and it's making a big difference to them, because it's just, you know, the man with the brain tumour who's really quite compromised in his movement patterns, and he said, oh yes, it's not just shifting weight, is it? He said it's deeper. He got that sense that it was deeper. So are you picking up what I mean here? So I'm sure you are. That you're really, it's an embodiment of the leg. It's really letting gravity happen for that leg. So you really feel, because at the point at which you're right over there, the other leg empties, and you could potentially even lift it up or just lift the heel. The other leg has emptied, and then you can empty that leg as you flow the energy across into the other leg. The leg you were standing on empties, and the other one fills. Notice what's happening with the torso when you get that sense of the leg really lengthening down. What happens with the torso?
Falling through here.
Comes up. So this is a sort of mini hip lift almost, isn't it? That something just lifts up this side of the supporting leg, and so I think again when you really release the gravity down, you really get a ground reaction force up.
Yeah. The side that you're emptying into tends to be a little bit more prominent in your minds, I think. You know, like it seem to be more aware of my right side when I'm thinking of the water going down into the right leg. As you're saying, it's like a rebound. It's a sort of a rebound coming up, which is probably taking more of the right side up for me than the left.
Yes.
And then it's just, and then the transition. But it certainly makes you feel up.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sort of, it uplifts me. Yeah.
I'm very much aware myself how I often don't quite let the energy right through to my feet and right through to the ground. I sort of hold myself slightly off the ground, which sounds ridiculous, but at an energetic level...
It's very gentle. It's good.
It's very gentle, isn't it? And I say it's both of these pupils have struggled to learn it because they're so dissociated from their legs, and I haven't gone in with them, you know, as new pupils. They're both on, I think, lesson 10, lesson 15, something like that. So we've done a lot of work even to get to the point of being able to do this, but it's actually making a huge difference. it looks after itself. So the next one is to try going forwards and back, which is and there McKay, the Delsatian, who describes these in his book, goes from the back hip again to the front hip, but this time on the diagonal. So as you go forwards, the back heel lifts this time. And then as you come back again, the front heel lifts. Who's had the brain operation, his coordination is very thrown, and he can't yet begin to balance on one leg, and I'm hoping that so he can walk, but there's a sort of a little bit of that involved, and I really want to get the walk happening much more through his legs, and I'm hoping that there will come a point where he can lift the leg. Where the energy is, and then pouring it down. This is the natural movement of walking, this one. This one is walking backwards, and you don't so easily, I think, lift the front leg, and you can. To me it's less secure. Maybe if I try it the other way round. See, that's easy. Seems to be a harder place to balance from. I don't know what you think. What you find from doing this one.
I've got quite a challenge with my right leg. It's doing its own kind of thing.
Oh, right. Okay. Does it normally do its own thing?
Yeah. Yes, I've noticed that it does do its own thing quite a lot. It's almost, the knee's almost bowed inward. So it's actually quite a challenge to stand on that leg.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that, I've really been focusing on, is my weight in my foot? Is my weight going through the foot?
Yeah.
There's just a little
I think
tendency to...
one of my breakthrough eureka moments was many years ago when we shortly moved to Ireland. And I went to my Tai Chi class, and actually there was nobody there, so I had a private lesson. And she said, "You're not letting your energy beyond your knees." And it made me realise that, I'd spent so many years with the Alexander work focusing knees away, and never went below that in my directions, and my knees often hurt. And when I took the energy right down to the feet, my knees didn't hurt. I mean, it's like going through. I think it's so crucial to go through the knees. We can get stuck at the knees because they hurt or they wobble or they... so getting through the knee to the ground. And my knees are still a tricksy point, so all the time I'm thinking, can I get through the knee and then through the ankle? I'm just thinking. Through the knee, through the ankle, through right to the sole of the foot, right through to saying hello to the ground. is coming up to meet us, isn't it? I find thinking that is...
It's interesting just seeing a little bit of a little bit of just wanting to sink into the hip as I transfer the weight onto that leg.
So this is the paradox, I think, because for years I've been working with not sinking into my hips, because my old pattern, I think, would have been to do that very easily and sort of sink down into the hips. And the hip lift teachers want to come up out of the hips and to free out all this area here, get it lifting up. And so here we are, thinking up out of the hips. And then I talked to a friend who did Tai Chi, who was saying, well, my Tai Chi teaches me the key to everything is to sink down into the hips. And I thought, okay, hang on, how do I square these two? But I think we've got both going on here when we get it right. If we let it come into the outside of the hip, then I sink. Whereas if I can pour it through, down, I can get that sort of sense of sinking down into the hips. But yet at the same time, there's a lifting off the hips. And actually they're not antagonistic. Well, they are antagonistic because gravity goes down, the anti-gravity goes up. But we're actually doing both. We're both sinking down into the hip, but yet lifting up off it. Does that make any sense at all?
It does, yes. Yeah, that's good.
And one of the ways that somebody suggested was the weight pours down through the bones and the muscles actually want to organise in the upward direction, which I think can be perhaps another way of thinking about it.
Well, Tai Chi has that image of the tree roots growing out of the feet.
Right. Yes, which Miss Goldie would have hated.
Yeah, sure.
because she saw people trying to ground.
Yeah.
That story of her telling somebody that he looked like the Bank of England because he was grounding, because he turned his legs just into tree trunks. Whereas I think if we really release these legs down, it's like really letting the rubber ball come down to come up. There is this contrary. So we're both sinking down and lifting up, ready to move. When it's done in this very... It's almost hard to say what the difference is.
There's certainly a transition there where, you go down and then you decide to reverse it, and you can actually feel the body, the fluid coming back up and moving across. But within that, there's a kind of a kinesthetic elevation and de-elevation. That's about the best way I can describe it.
Yes, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense, because when we are walking, one leg fills, the other leg empties to swing, and then we plant that, and that one fills, and the other one empties to swing. So I think, at an energetic level, that's exactly what is going on. I would agree with that, because we don't want to just pour down and stick. And everything in the body is fluid, isn't it? I mean, I think this is, again, one of the problems people were talking about in another of the groups the other day, that we've got this idea that directions go in one direction, but actually they're always doing that. There's always the antagonistic, and then there's also pulses. So could we, as Sandra, you mentioned you've been working with coming on toes, and I can see you beginning to play with it. So once we've got this real connection down, come on Zoom, catch up with my light. And that sense of the lift up, can I get that coming on toes even on one leg? And I noticed that when I landed on that one, I actually went heavily, and that my weight jammed in the hip. It didn't go down the leg. What's it like to land on that leg and let it go down the leg to the foot, which actually is different, and then I can again get this coming up and come up. So you could do it holding something if you needed, but just that connection down. And can I then find that up, the lifter muscle, taking it back and up. And I'm coming up on one leg here because I think it's fantastic if we can come up on one leg. It may be a bit much if so to come up on two legs, but if we come up on one leg, we really see whether we've got a leg that isn't joining in. I had a pupil in Ireland who I think actually had a real physical problem with one of his legs, and if I brought him on toes, it looked like he was doing it, but actually if we did single legs, his right leg could do it, his left leg it had no toe push. The toe push literally wasn't there for him. I'm not sure why.
Could you just go over that again? I kind of missed. You were doing it. Were you coming up onto the toes on one leg?
Yes, so I'm coming up onto the toes on one leg. I've got the lights there now, you'll be able to see me.
Yeah.
Sometimes Zoom doesn't catch up with my lighting. So I'm pouring that energy across, I'm sending it down the leg right to the feet. At the point at which I feel that release up, that hip lift of it, can I then I'm not just pushing up from the foot, I'm seeing if the whole body will draw me up onto the tiptoe, and seeing if I can do that just on the one leg, but not doing it from the leg, doing it from the whole lift, and there's still that release down, but yet the whole thing is lifting up onto the tiptoe. So now I'm going to land on the other leg, let that one pour down, making sure not to go into the outside hip, to the point where that one lightens. And can I feel that response in the whole torso, and can that then send me up on the toes? So this is, at this point, we're taking this into a hip lift. Does that make sense, Chris?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I'll just sort of reiterate it if I can, to see if I've got it. It's like it's difficult to see. I'm directing my energy down into my left leg.
Yes.
Okay. And then it's going down, and then it's coming up.
To the point where the other leg can lift.
So I can lift onto the toes of the right foot.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing, is it?
Yeah. And now keep the lifter muscles coming, and see if that whole side of the body can lift you onto your toes.
So both on.
It's you can use the tiptoes of the other leg just to balance you if you need, but the work, so that one's on tiptoes just to balance me, but that leg's empty. The work is being done by that left side. The muscles all the way up, coming up.
Yeah.
That's it. And so you want the work predominantly being done by one side of the body.
I get it. Yeah. Yeah. Good.
And then seeing if you can do the whole thing with the other side, just pouring it across, weighting it down to the point where the other leg empties and you can just lift the heel, and then seeing if you can use, so not the shoulder, it's not the shoulder, it's coming up from the whole, it's the legs, the rib cage, everything underneath the shoulder coming up. And Alexander's lifter muscles, I mean, if he took you on your toes, he would do that. So it's this back and up of the rib cage is the top part of the process. So it's engaging all the muscles that are lifting together.
Right.
There's a lot of talk in fitness circles now that I'm picking up about working one side of the body at a time. That if you always work symmetrically, two legs together, two leg squats, two leg coming up on toes and things, because the nervous system is often set up slightly differently between the two sides, it can actually, create a bit of chaos in the system. To work the sides individually to strengthen them can actually really sort of zip the system up, because you get to see the side of the body that is just following along and the side of the body that's doing all the biz. And you really get to work both sides, and apparently it makes a huge difference. I found a chart the other day of how many times you're supposed to be able to come up and down slowly on one toe for your age. I'll pull it up, and for what it's worth, which one was that in? I think it was a strengthening the feet. Yes, so if you're between 70 and 79, then for men it should be 14 times in a minute, and for women it should be 16 times in a minute. Does that catch you, Chris?
Yes.
Yes. Sandra, are you still in the 60 to 69?
Yes.
I can ask a lady her age. So for you, it's
Yep.
19 times that we're
And this
supposed to
is
be able to. And
that
coming up onto the toes on one side.
yes. So the way it works is you do it in second intervals, up and down. Set 1, 2, 2. I'm trying to time it with my clock. 3. So you're coming up in a second and going down in a second. And how many can you do before you go into cramps and fall over? So it's worth holding on to something, because then you're not, as long as it's just a light touch, so that you're not fighting balance at the same time. But keep coming up from seeing how how sustained you can make the movement, and keep working these lifter muscles so you do it. So it's not just the poor old calf. I mean, I'm at number 10 at this point, and my calves are telling me about it. But then I was awake from 3 in the morning, which is probably part of that. 15. 16 is starting to hurt. 17. 18, 19, oof, ouch, I think that'll do. But this is working, I mean, they see it as just working the calves, but we see it as working the whole side of the body. Okay, Sandra, this is much harder for you this side, isn't it? So again, how much can you're doing it, which is fantastic. And then your goal will be, because at the moment it's pop up, pop down, and your goal will be, can I sustain it lum dum rather than dum 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 dum, if you see what I'm saying. So sustaining, particularly
Yeah.
on the way
Yeah.
down, because the down is the eccentric. That's it. That was different. So don't worry about the sort of the doing the 19 to start with. Just work with getting a sustained up, and particularly a sustained down, because that's the one people really struggle with. And there you're really strengthening the instep of the foot, I think. Yes, I mean that foot can do a bit more sustain, can't it, than your right foot.
Yeah.
Keep breathing. Nice. So again, the point about a sustained movement, this is some of my fitness research, is that first you engage the fibres that are the slow twitch, that are engaged with quite a low level of stimulation, and then you engage the middle range fibres, which take more to stimulate them, and then you keep going and you finally get the fibres which really only work when we're under a lot of pressure and a lot of force is required. And if one does a sustained movement, one gets all the band of fibres, whereas if we just sort of pop up and pop down, we miss quite a number of fibres in the middle. Does that make sense? So this is where slow sustained movements come in, is that we really are working every fibre of the muscle rather than just some of them. And it is worth going to that point where you go, oh, sugar, because that's where you're working those ones that really only come in when absolutely we're at death's door and we're running from the tiger, and it's the ones that are for the more extreme movements. But there's huge physiological benefits when those guys get involved. This is, and they are the ones that really can reverse sarcopenia. So doing all 19 to the point where your calf muscle is screaming, but not doing that every day, doing it every 2 or 3 days, is actually worthwhile. Because in Alexander we don't go there. But I don't know whether Alexander did himself. So again, putting one hand up can really help to draw the body on the toes. Sustain up, sustain down. Keep breathing. That looked nice, Sandra. Getting more sustainable.
Yeah, I've done a fair bit on the 2 legs, but yeah, I was exploring this afternoon and really noticed the imbalance on one side to the other. So
yes,
I shall endeavour to.
Oof, when I get to 19, I can really feel not just the calf, but the glute starts to come in as well. Ouch, that's me done. Yeah. Again, Chris, see if you can sustain. You're popping up and you're dropping down. See if you can find that sustain down. That's it. Sustain it down. And to sustain it down, you've really got to keep thinking up, haven't you? Because it's very easy just to let go. Just keep thinking up on the way down. So you really are getting that, you know, that something is flowing down, something else is flowing up. And the reverse, of course, is true as we're coming up. That, again, if we just think up, we might pop up. Whereas if we flow down as we come up, we get a more sustained. So I think it's quite nice to work with these energy flows as we go through this. Down to come up and up to come down. So we've got the lifter muscles and all the muscles coming up, and they stay coming up as we go down, but there's also a sustained down through it. So we've got both going on. Nice. Oh yes, Sandra.
Yeah, I kind of like to think when we're lowering down that it's that you're lengthening. It's almost, I think of going down as almost staying up, but just lowering your heels.
That's exactly how I feel it.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, and it
it's
can
kind of,
feel
you get
like
this,
that, can't it? It doesn't. It almost feels like you're not actually descending in space because something is just lengthening, lengthening, lengthening. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at the Miss Goldie video with the fireplace.
Oh yes, right.
And just trying to not push up, but find that backing up. Not
yes. Yeah, that makes sense that that's what you were watching earlier. And of course, they always did it on two legs. But as I say, it's really interesting to do on one leg once you've got.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting.
And then the counter to that, of course, is the one leg squat. And we did that. Have we done a bit of moonwalk? Did we ever do a bit of moonwalk? Sorry?
I think we have. But
you think we have? Yeah.
Some time ago, yeah.
Some time ago, yeah. I mean, without going through the whole thing, it's just that first bit of just letting that, again, and it's not sticking the bum out. Again, it's this sense of sinking down the leg. So to do it first on two legs, just to sink down into that. I mean, there's your bounce. If you sink down and the weight's going through the back of the knees, then you get that lovely bounce up. If you think into the front of the legs, it doesn't work. You have to think down the back of the legs and this sinking down of the bum. And then can we find that? Probably found that one all right. Yeah, again, Sandra, can you get it a bit more sustained? Because again, I feel it's pop 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 pop. Yeah. Can you let it be a bit more? I'm never quite sure how to describe this. It's almost as if it's happening through treacle, as it were. It's a slower bounce up. It's not just a bend, it's a sense that the muscles are stretching. Just do this actually before we do that. If we do what in gym work they call a deadlift squat, where you really take those posterior spines back and being aware of the stretch that you get on the hamstring. Whereas if you just sort of do that, nothing much happens in the hamstring. Whereas if you really take those hips back, then the hamstrings are stretched, and then they will power you up. So can we get that sense of muscles being stretched? Because that's what's happening to these. They're stretching and then they're contracting. The extensors are lengthening. But they're not just lengthening, they're stretching. If I just drop into it, they stretch passively, whereas if I go sustained into them, they're this sort of tight in, they're the eccentric stretch, which then will fire me up again. And the same is happening in the quads. They're being stretched, and so there's a lengthening to it that then sort of gives a more sustained elastic to the bounce rather than drop and return. So the hips are coming back in space. That's it. And this apparently is the stretch the hamstrings really like, according to a fitness coach I was watching the other day. How far can we send our hamstrings back in space? Do you remember those images of Sheila's grandchild? Really, the little girl going into a squat and really sending her hips back and back and back till her back is horizontal. So this is a small child squat. Yeah, and if you think of the hamstrings directing from the back of the knees to the sitting bones as you both bend and straighten. That's it. So the hamstrings are coming back and up as you bend, and the hamstrings are coming back and up as you straighten. That's it. Can we leave the knees where they are actually, rather than letting the knees come forwards at all? And really just taking the hips back in space. That's it, Sandra. Yeah, that's. Can you feel things lengthening there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris, are you finding that?
Yes, thanks.
Yeah. And then they ping you back up. And then see, Sandra, if you can take that into a bounce. And see whether you can get that sense of the elasticity of the movement. So a slower sort of just down and up a few times, and then see if you can sort of quicken it until you find the CPG in it. But there is a weight transfer in this, and because I've noticed that some people they sort of jiggle as they bounce. That it's not that I ask people to bounce and they sort of do that. It's almost like an upper body shake, and there's no real weight transfer going right to the ground. There's no here I've got my feet involved. There's a sinking down and then a response. Whereas this, I'm not quite sure what's happening. Something doesn't transfer through. Does that make sense to you in terms of? Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, and that's starting to. You can see the spring coming right from Sandra's feet in that. Because you're sort of stretching everything, and then it's springing up again. So is that what it feels like, Sandra?
Yes, it's quite different. It's quite a lot of work compared to what I would normally do. Yes.
Right.
I would cheat.
Yeah.
But no, that made sense because I hadn't understood. Don't put your knees forward.
Right. Yes.
And it made sense then that the knees don't go forward, and then you're extending the hamstring back.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas if you put the knees forward, you're extending the quad, but you don't actually lengthen the hamstring. Yes. Do you remember that video of Sheila's grandchild? Do you remember that one?
Vaguely.
I'll show it to you again because, I mean, it is what. I'm going to have to bring something up in order to get at my. So ignore what's on the screen. that's photos. I want videos of small children squatting, don't I? There we go. So, not the one of... Right, I'll just share this now. Okay, let's play it again. See, her hips go right back. There's another one. See, look at how, the knees just don't move till the last minute. So her knees are actually vertical at that point. And then only when she sinks her bum down do the knees come forward. But up till there, they're actually vertical. She just sends that bum back in space. It's amazing. Oh, sorry, I haven't switched that off. Okay. That's it. Yeah, so you're really sending those hips back. And lengthening the hamstrings. Thought about hamstrings coming up. Also thinking about the quads. Also, the hamstring wants to be working in that direction, and the quads also want to be working in that direction because the quads are the ones that extend the knee. So again, they're lengthening eccentrically and supporting us as we go down, and then contracting as we come up, and we really want them. We don't want, to be gripping around the knees down. We want those quads lengthening up, thinking up. We're not pulling them up because that again would just jam the knee. We're thinking them up from the tibial tuberosity up to the middle of the thigh. So they're lengthening and coming up as well. So they're doing the same as the hamstrings. The hamstrings are doing it for the hips, and the quads are doing it for the knees. So you've got that going on, and that as we lengthen, that as we come up, and that as we, they're working eccentrically, they're both working concentrically. And if my knees hurt, I really focus on thinking that to the quads, and it usually stops it. That's a super squat. Yeah.
It really opens you up through the front of the hips on the way back up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, everything just, opens out. And then can you do it on one leg?
No, that's really nice.
Yeah. So to start with, the one I like is this. I've just doing it on one leg like that. Just, again, you're taking the posterior iliac spines back in space and seeing if you can keep the body, because it's very easy to do that. Can you actually at this point keep the body upright and find a bit of a bounce like that to which you can eventually lift the leg off. So you're starting with one leg forward, you're taking the hips back in space. But keeping the torso, see if you can keep the torso upright. And for that, you really need to open the lower back. And again, this is releasing behind. It's the backs of the knees. This is coming back, but it's the knee this time is coming forward, so that the body stays upright. but you're sending the back of the knee forwards. No, there you're leaning forwards, but that's nice. See if you can stay even more upright. Keep the lower back coming back. Keep the lower back coming back, the ribs coming back. That's it. There, that's it, you've got it. Yes. Yes. That's nice. And so there's your one leg squat. And again, going slowly, you can bounce it, which we've just been doing, or you can go slowly down and slowly up, and slowly down and slowly up, which is a killer. But it gets you stronger. That's it. Yeah. So you're staying back, and this is keeping the back vertical, and it really opens, makes the lumbar spine and the whole thoracolumbar fascia really open out and work. Can you do a little bit of this, Chris? You don't have to go very far. I've got a good view of your ceiling. That's lovely, Sandra. That's beautiful. And again, the more we can do it slow.
One leg.
On one leg, yeah. Did you even know you could do this? I mean, these are
just the one leg.
Yeah. So the other leg won't do it, you're saying? Yes.
It's interesting. Yeah, but it's interesting because if I was just to go onto the one leg, the left leg has more tone, whereas the right leg is distorted. But to then go onto one leg, I can do it better on the right than the left.
That's interesting. So when you do the two legs together.
So if I was just to, the rights. So if I was doing this morning, it was just sort of half log, and I was just doing the lengthening up.
Yeah.
So I can do that quite well on the left, but on the right, the shape of my leg is quite, I feel more like that kind of a shape happening.
Yes, you're having to lean the body left over to the side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think about this vastus medialis coming up. Do you know what I mean? So there's three quads. This is the rectus femoris, the one that goes up the middle, and that's the multi-joint one. That's also a hip flexor. But the other three are the vastuses, and they just come, the bulgy bit either side of your knee. You've got a lovely bulge either side of your knee, and the inner one is the vastus medialis, and the outer one is the vastus lateralis. Now, when the knee does that, it's because the vastus medialis is weak, and also the gluteus medius. So the answer is hip lift, gluteus medius, but it's useful, I find, to think this up. And women are more susceptible to this than men because the thigh bone isn't straight. The thigh bone actually goes at that angle, and that's going to push those in. So this muscle is incredibly important for keeping the inside of the legs from doing that. But because we lose our midline muscles, we lose vastus medialis. It's one of the ones that goes when we stand like this. This overworks and this underworks. And, I've read physio websites that say this is more or less gone in a lot of people. And actually getting this back in play is huge. So when I'm working, very often I'm not thinking just straight up the middle of my legs. I'm thinking just up this inner one. It's not the side of the leg. If you think of it like a compass, this is north, this is east, this is west. So this is northeast. The vastus medialis is northeast, and this one is northwest, if that makes sense. So I'll bring you up a picture of it. So here they are. You can see it's a great big bulgy muscle up the inside of the thigh. Actually, I'll just show you another one first. Yeah, frontal thigh. Here we go. Can you still see this? Can you? Oh yeah, no.
Still got the first picture.
Still got the first picture, right? Okay. Here. So there's that. There's the rectus femoris, the straight up down one, but you can see it's at an angle. Here's the tibial tuberosity. The tendon, which includes the patella, is bedded into. The patella is in the tendon of all the quads, and then you've got this rectus femoris, which is the one that attaches to the hip, to the inferior iliac spine. But then either side you've got these two vastus muscles, and you can see them on your legs. You've got this lovely bulge on the inside and another bulge on the outside. So that's the vastus medialis on the inside and lateralis on the outside. And then, so if we go back to the other picture, which I've now lost because I put it down. Let's get that back up again. Oh, where's it gone? There it is. Now, can you see that? There. Yeah. So there's that.
Still got the other one.
Have you?
Okay.
Still?
There we are. Yep.
You can see it now.
Now we can see it. Yep.
Yeah, good.
It's come up.
So,
Yep.
So here's the rectus femoris going from that tibial tuberosity right through to the inferior iliac spine. There's our friend, the superior iliac spine. So that one you can see is also a hip flexor. But the other three are just knee extensors. And they go from below the knee and they attach all the way up the side of the thigh. So that one's the one on the inside, the vastus medialis, and that's its line of pull. And then the vastus lateralis is attaching to the whole of the outside of the thigh. And then vastus intermedius is underneath the big one, and that's attaching all up to the middle of the thigh. So that's these muscles have got a huge grip on the thigh. They're really helping hold us up. But look at the angle of the bone. That's the angle that our thigh bone is at. So this guy is vulnerable. The knee is prone to just collapsing to the inside, and this one is crucial. Can you see that one's crucial for keeping it strong? And yet this is the muscle that gets lost because we lose the midline muscles. So I've done lots of stroking that muscle and thinking along it as I walk, and really just sort of waking it up. And then as you go on one leg, can you, and say the other side of that then is the gluteus medius. So we want this to stay strong, because if this doesn't stay strong, we do that. This is helping all that. This is helping this stay strong, and then this is helping this stay strong. So you've got both going on to support that leg. Women are more prone to legs falling in than men because we have a bigger Q angle, a bigger angle on the thigh because we've got wider hips. So this is particularly a woman problem. How's that? Does that make a difference?
Yeah, that's useful. Yeah.
And of course, you know,
Yes.
if Elke showed me some great exercises for that, which were sort of purely mechanical, but we had a long discussion about this, and you know, I think directing along them, directing it back and up, is just such a useful thing to be able to do for these muscles. To actually, you know, I know we're not supposed to work with individual muscles, but it's like it's got to join in. And if it's not joining in, it needs some individual attention, and then it can become
Got to
part
wake
of
them
the.
up.
They've got to wake them up, exactly, and it's under
Yeah,
firing, or it's switched off,
yeah,
or it's tired, or um,
yeah. I
yeah.
was quite concave around the outside of the pelvis, so I didn't have any glutes at all there
Yes,
for a long time.
for a long time, yes, and now you have. Yeah, and of course squats are also working glutes, and um, so it's like these single leg squats, single leg raises. I think they're.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, no, it's good.
And then that supports the torso, and then the torso can do what it's supposed to be able to do, of think back and up, and the abdominals can come into play, and then we can free our bloody necks. Because if we haven't got that support from the ground, the neck's going to have to hang on like dear whatever, to hold us up, and the shoulders as well. So we need it all working. Yeah. Chris, how are you doing with all this? Is this
Oh, good, thanks. Yeah,
oh, you've frozen again. Seems to be having internet problems today. How's your feet
Yeah.
and all this, Sandra?
It's interesting. I do, obviously the left foot seems to feel a bit weaker. And I notice that sometimes if I'm trying to get some articulation at the front of the ankle, that's not a happy movement there. But I think that I'm thinking that it's better. I'm thinking it's better. I'm working on. I've also been thinking about making sure that the ball of the big toe is going down from the arch,
Right.
as well as the heel. So yeah, and also doing the backing up of the ankle.
Yeah.
Inside
Yes,
ankle.
because that's what we talked about last time.
Those turns to
yes, getting that down and this back and
get
up.
that lift.
Yeah. And so what we've done today hopefully joins into that. It's the next bit of the chain. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I watched this fascinating video. There's a whole new school, a whole new branch of medicine, of sports medicine appeared, called neurophysiology, where they're working in more detail, but they're still doing it in a doing way. So they're trying to find their way through to what we're doing, but they're not there because they're doing it in a doing way. But I think it's quite interesting to watch some of their stuff. And there was this trainer I was watching who was testing people. He was working in a gym, and he was testing people, say, lifting two weights together. And I must watch it again at some point. It was something like he was seeing whether the movement actually created more strength or whether it disorganized them. And very often when they did a bilateral movement, it actually disorganized them. And then when they actually worked them on their own, it reorganized it, and then they could go back to the bilateral and it was better. And I think it's for these sort of reasons and that could be you were saying that when you did it with two legs, one leg went wonky, but when you did it singly, they could do it. So I'm wondering if there's something like that going on for you. I mean, this is something I don't really know about.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because I always get my students to work one arm.
Yeah.
I never get them, or very rarely get them, to do two arms, because it's just too much information and they can't see what's going on.
Yes, isn't it? And also our two arms, because we are right and left-handed, there are such different movement patterns on the two sides. I mean, they really do. They connect in different ways. They move in different ways, or don't. So you're right. I think trying to work them both together is mostly, it's interesting you say there's too much information. I was reading Frank Pierce-Jones yesterday, and he said there was sometimes when he was training, there was a point where Alexander was on one side of him and AR was the other side, and they were moving him together like a puppet, and said it was an amazing experience, but he didn't learn anything from it. And he said sometimes they'd get 2 or 3 assistants around him as well. He said it was just too much kinesthetic information. You can't take it in. You can't actually take something away from it. Yeah, and I never liked it when several people worked on me at a time. I never particularly enjoyed that and didn't know why, unless it was with one purpose. There was the first time it happened when I was visiting a training school, and Margaret Farrar got hold of my ribs at the back, and Jean Clark took hold of my knees, and they showed me how I could lengthen the 2 away. And I've never forgotten, it was that feeling of being taken apart, rather than gripping with both. And it was one of those unforgettable movements, but it took 2 people to do it. But it was only one set of information. Whereas if somebody's moving one arm and somebody else is moving the other arm, it's like you don't know where to look. So it seems to me that getting several things happening at once is useful if it's part of the same pattern. Yeah. Whereas if it's 2 arms, it's 2 different patterns going on. Or somebody taking your arm out and the other one waggling it. It's like, how do I process that? But if we're playing a violin, we want 2 arms doing things at the same time. So we need to be able to get through to 2 arm patterns. But at that point, it becomes part of an integrated whole.
But they're all, and they are doing different things though.
They are, but they're doing it in service of the music, and the music is the one goal, I would suggest. And that's what ties it together, because otherwise just doing that with one hand and that doing that with the other hand is, what's that about? But if it's in service of something, then it makes sense. Thoughts? Any last thoughts? Chris, how was those single leg squats? I saw you having a go.
You're on silent, Chris.
We can't.
You're muted.
Yeah.
I just apologise about the internet. I'm sorry about that. Anyway.
Yeah. How were those single leg squats? I saw you having a go. Could you find it? Yep.
Yeah. I'll try some of those. It'll all tie in with the sciatic stuff, I guess.
I think so. The more you can strengthen the whole legs in balance with the body, the more you should be opening out those hips, and because we're not just working them. Go on.
I just noticed, or observing myself, that when I'm getting a good sense or a good connection of the lower ribs staying back and up, then I'm getting a lot more space in that whole lumbar area.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other one is the iliac spine. So I find that the more I can if I can keep those back and up and this coming round that way, that really supports. If I let that go, my legs really struggle. If I can get that going, then I can go for ages. Just getting the whole torso engaged, both the back and up of the ribs and the abdominals, is, I think, so important, and one can focus it from the posterior, from the iliac spines coming round, or one can focus it by here staying up with the breathing, whichever way. But it's like one needs to get that supporting musculature of the torso going to get the legs supported. One needs to get the legs going to get the torso supported. So they really work together. Are you okay, Chris? You're looking a bit tired.
I'm a bit weary, yes. Yep.
Yes, I wondered that. And it's the end of your day.
Yep.
What did you notice, Sandra? Did that?
Yeah, no, yeah, I had been working with particularly the lower ribs back, but just introducing more the iliac spines forward. It just gives a lot more support.
It really does, doesn't it? Yes.
Yeah, gives sort of much more stability in the torso.
Yeah. Good. Okie doke.
Thank you.
Shall we find another date?
Sure.
Hopefully Elka will be able to. Let's find a provisional date and then get in touch with Elka and see if she can do it. So afterwards I'll set up a 3-way email or 4-way email where we're all able to feedback on it. So 3 months would be beginning of September.
Thursday, the 24th of September.
Thursday the 24th of September. Yeah,
Is that any good?
that
17?
works for me, as far as I know. Sandra?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, sounds good.
So we're still on summertime at that point for everybody, so that would be my 9:30. Okay, so I'll do an email to everyone afterwards and we'll see whether Elka... Is this when Elka's on her big singing tour? I forget.
I think she's away travelling at the moment, yeah.
I know she's away. I think that's probably when they're in Ireland. Yeah, and she couldn't quite work it to make it over to Edinburgh, which was such a pity. Yeah. Okie doke. So...
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, enjoy.
Get better, Chris. See ya. Thank you.
Good to see you both.
Cheers.
Cheers.